Hey guys, Zockman here, bringing you the church audio life. Today we're unboxing and then reviewing the Sennheiser EW100 G4. Boom. Let's see what's inside the box. Oh, nice. Always like the way Sennheiser does their packaging. But this is the handheld mic. They actually separated out from the head now in their packaging. They used to have it together. That's the 835, E835. Mic clip, of course. A couple of antennas. The EM100 receiver. Instruction manual, of course. With a few other little paperworks. Sennheiser branded batteries. And of course, the different kind of power plugs. One thing that's important when you're unboxing this is if you lift this up, you notice there's actually a metal plate here. This is actually included now in these is the rack mount kit. But you only see this part, the rest of it is actually underneath this deal, as well as the power. So eventually, of course, you would find that, but this is actually the rack mounting kit. That used to be a separate purchase. And of course, the power adapter. So that's one nice thing already with the Generation 4, that the rack mount kit is now included. Although they just, I'm sure, just add to the price. But anyway, it's nice to get it when you get the mics. All right, so I'm gonna put this into use. Okay, so we've had this system now for over a year. I meant to make this video a little sooner. So that year has given me a really good amount of time to get to know this system. First thing I want to talk about is the mic itself. So the mic included in the EW100 G4 kit is the SKM100 G4. This whole kit is very similar to its predecessor, the G3, with a few noticeable changes. But let's talk about the things I like. First of all, I love the way these mics sound. They have a nice full kind of pushed forward presence without being muddy. They have enough detail without being like, they're not like a studio condenser mic, which is like really picks up the tiniest little transients, but it's detailed enough to have clarity and openness without being harsh or overly SE. I mean, of course, if someone is a very SE person, it's gonna pick that up, but this mic by itself doesn't enhance that. I think it sounds similar, but even a touch better than the SM58s. I actually would prefer this tone substantially. To me, this sounds a little bit less muddy than those can tend to get at times, and a bit more polished. We've had other mics that are a bit more even higher end yet, even costing like 3 or 4 times as much, that had a bit more detail. But actually, a lot of our singers preferred these so because they feel like they pushed through the mix better. So, slightly bit of a preference thing, but I just love the way these sound. Another thing I love is that they have interchangeable heads. So I mean, this one came with the E835 head, which is just a cardioid pattern. If you wanted to swap out for a super card, you literally can just buy the head and just spin the whole head off. And it comes apart. And if you also want to change the pattern, or if for some reason someone dropped the mic and substantially damaged the head, instead of having to replace the whole mic, you could replace just the head. There we go. Also, it's got a nice way to take off the top grill. You just spin the grill off if you ever want to clean that out. So this one still, after years, had very little DNA in it, so that's pretty good. Very few little bit of food particles. So if you're a person who regularly cleans out your mics, I think you'll appreciate how easy this comes apart, easy that is to clean. I also like that it uses AA's instead of 9 volts. That pops open in the back here, so you just spin that apart. Boom, 2 AA's. And I just find that AA's for wireless mics will always last longer than 9 volts. We've had previous system with 9 volts and they always took the batteries down really fast and they were less reliable. These will go quite a while on 2 AA's. There is color-coded rings you can get for the back. I don't have one on this one, it's just the standard black. But if you like to color code your mics, you can buy a package and put like a little ring. It's still fairly discreet. It's not as obvious as some big ugly piece of tape or something like that. But it's obviously enough that from the soundboard you can tell which color it is. People use different methods, but if you like the color code method, you can buy those rings. And literally just pops off and pops back on. That's a nice feature. I also like how the sensitivity is easy to set. And I like how it's in 6 decibel increments instead of 10. Some previous generations of these mics, I think the version 2 went in 10 decibel increments. It's as simple as just, pressing in the button. Whichever menu comes up, this case happens to already be on sensitivity, push it in, and then using up arrows up and down, you can change that to higher or lower numbers, and then push it back in to store it, and then just tap the power button to get out of that menu. And yeah, really nice. The only thing that I really dislike about this mic, and apparently other mics have the same problem, is that when you grab the antenna, you lose significant wireless reception. The clarity, it starts to drop off. And even recently I had a conference and the speaker wanted a handheld and he kept on grabbing the bottom of the antenna. And sometimes his mic was cutting out entirely for like a split second and coming back. Sometimes it gets fuzzy. I think it sort of depends on which frequency you're using and the room, because most of the time when someone grabs the antenna, it just gets a little fuzzy for a second. But in this case, it was cutting entirely out. I gave another exactly the same mic on a different frequency, and it only slightly got static and didn't actually cut out at all. So I think some degree it depends on all those thousands of factors that makes wireless so complex. But the previous generation 2 of these mics didn't have the extra antenna at the back. It was just like flat cut off here. And it didn't matter where you grabbed it, you would never lose your wireless. I'm not sure what changed, why that's now worse. And that's one thing I really had hoped they would have fixed on generation 4. And instead it's exactly the same, no better at all. I think the whole mechanism is probably just the exact same mechanism, hasn't been updated at all. So that's a shame. We hope for generation 5 they fix that. And of course other mics do it as well. It's really kind of an annoying thing. It really would be nice that if you have the antenna, clearly it's possible because they could do it in generation 2. So hopefully they can go back to that at some point. So as I mentioned, we have had this for about a year. We actually installed it in a room we call our theater. It's also where we installed a second one, as well as the ASA 214 antenna splitter. And it's really a nice combination, especially when you use that antenna splitter. You can power up to 4 receivers through the antenna lines. So all you need is the one wall wart for the ASA 214, the antenna splitter, and then the rest just to get powered through the antenna cable. So you don't have to have 4 wall warts just taking up your whole power bar. Actually, really quite like that. I like the way they've done a kind of a new white look. I like how the GA3 rack mount kit is now included. It used to be an extra purchase. But if you look at the price, actually from the generation 3 to the generation 4, it's almost the same. It's, at least where I'm from, it's about $35 more. But then it includes the rack mount kit, which used to be around $35. So I really think the main motivation for this generation 4 from Sennheiser was just to accommodate for all the new frequency ranges they needed because of the new law that was passed. And I think they took that opportunity just to update the look a little bit, add a couple little buttons, because it's not actually in a lot of ways a huge upgrade from the previous. It's got a couple extra buttons, the screen's a nicer color, it's got a nice new white look, but much of it is much the same, which I actually kind of like because I really liked the previous system. And I like that nothing has changed to make it now somehow a different way to work. It's if you know generation 3, you just put the generation 4 in and you're off to the races. So yeah, I love how these have a logical button layout. I like how they now have an escape button. It used to be that you had to press the power button to go back in the menu, and a lot of people get confused by that, wouldn't know that, so they wouldn't know how to go back in the menu. So it's nice when you press escape, you know you're gonna go back to the previous menu. I really like how the squelch is easy to set. It's a very simple little procedure there. I like how they're very easy to sync. You basically press the sync button, hold the thing up to it. That's a really nice, easy feature. I really like how the generation 4 mics will work seamlessly with the generation 3 or even generation 2 with Sennheiser. So if you have any old Sennheiser stuff that's still in legal ranges, you can still use it with these modern ones. There's a port on the back. This is one like a small negative thing, is that they have an RJ10 port on the back instead of an RJ45. So you can't plug these directly into a network like you can with the 300 series or 500 or above. This is just so that you can do a easy setup and you just tie them into each other with these, basically what used to be like a kind of a phone cable. And they would then talk to each other and figure out each other's frequencies. So when they do an easy setup, it will set all 4 of them. But you can't have it like on your network, like on a computer screen like you could with the the 300 and 500 and 2000 series. But of course, you know, there has to be something they do to make these a little cheaper compared to the other ones as well. I do like the new color on the screen. That's a kind of a white and a black. I like how you can see the AF and the RF and the battery level and the name and the frequency. Nice, easy to see even from a bit of a distance. So for my final verdict, I would say that I would definitely recommend this mic if you're looking for a new wireless mic system. It has a great reliability. I think it sounds awesome. I like the layout of the buttons. I like the menu system. I like the way it's nice and visible. I like the way that you can see the battery level from the back and also the RF and the AF level that you're getting as well. I like how they're easy to set up and really a great system altogether. The only negatives, like I mentioned already, is that there is the problem when you grab the antenna of the bottom of the mic, you sometimes lose wireless reception. And then the fact that they only have an RJ10 port on the back to talk to each other, but you can't actually put them onto a network like you can with the higher series of Sennheiser systems. But those are all pretty minor things. I still think compared to what's out there in the competition, I would always buy these instead of other ones. And I think it'd be a good recommendation for you or your church. All right. If you like this, just subscribe to the channel or like this video, and I'll see you later. God bless.